What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. I'm Odd Danny.
I'm Odd Chris.
And this is the Odd Nation podcast. This is like episode 4 or 5, but this is the first episode that we've recorded together. He's usually the more of the behind-the-scenes editor, the tech guy, but You know what? He's also super interesting. So we're going to start doing these podcasts as a tandem duo. And this is soon to be the number one podcast in the world, guaranteed. Sorry, Impulsive. Sorry, Joe Rogan. Nothing at you guys. It's just that we're odd. We're odd. Don't forget.
Yeah.
You got to be odd to be number one. Without further ado, we're just going to jump straight into the crazy conversations that we're going to have today. I was pulling some really interesting information. And I'm pretty much just going to dive right into it. If you haven't already, make sure you smash the subscribe button and ring the little bell. Don't miss these epic episodes. I'm promising you we're going to talk about things that are going to blow your mind, theories, and all the good stuff. And with that being said, I'm jumping straight into the theory that I wanted to talk about. Recently, I seen a podcast episode. You know Jumpers Jump?
Yeah.
Jumpers Jump podcast.
Yeah, the ones that do all those conspiracies and stuff.
Exactly.
I love their videos.
Yeah. Shouldn't be talking about someone else's podcast on my podcast, you know. But whatever, it is what it is. Shout out to Jumpers Jump. You guys are awesome. They talked about Titanic, and they had talked about a theory that Titanic, that Jack from Titanic is a time traveler. Have you ever heard that?
I have not. What does that even mean?
So basically, there's a scene in the Titanic where Jack tells Rose that he used to go fishing with his dad in Lake Wissota.
Okay.
But
I think I remember that.
But Titanic sunk in 1912, and Lake Wissota wasn't an official lake until 1917. There's also, right after that, Jack tells Rose that he used to ride the Santa Monica Pier roller coaster, which also didn't come out and wasn't built until 1917. So then the theory goes that he was a time traveler, and he was sent back to make sure Rose didn't jump off the boat, because then the Titanic would have done a U-turn and then would have never have crashed into the iceberg. And he needed to make sure that the whole event stayed going.
That's crazy.
Right? That's what I said.
You're telling him. So he could have prevented it. He could have prevented it.
So this was the theory. So anyways, getting back into it, I started doing some digging, and I wanted to look a little bit more into the whole Jack and Rose situation after hearing that Jack could be a time traveler. And you want to know what I found out when I was digging, trying to find stuff out about Rose and Jack? Listen to this. Jack and Rose from the Titanic weren't even real. They were made up characters.
So
the whole story.
The directors just decided to create them and put them in the story.
Yeah, so at the end of the Titanic, the lady Rose, there's an old lady talking and telling the story. Her name is Rose, and she was apparently on the Titanic. But that never really happened. She was never actually on the Titanic. She was just a fictional character. She was never on the Titanic. The story of the Titanic told by Rose is a completely fabricated story. She was never on it. It was all myth. They were mythical creatures.
Dude, that's what they do it based on. Based on a true story. It's based on.
That's what I
but
said.
It's not 100% true. It's based on.
I can't stand that. Based on a true story. No, everyone for years, I guarantee you people watching this still think that Rose was actually on the Titanic. Rose was not on the Titanic. She was completely made up character. That whole thing, even her telling the story, all made up.
That ruins my childhood a little bit.
Yeah.
I believed it. They got me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we don't even really know what happened on the Titanic. If that's the case, what really went down on the Titanic?
Yeah.
That was the to what I know, that was the evidence that we had as truth. Nightmare on Elm Street was based on a true story. Nightmare on Elm Street was based on a true story.
You told me that, but yeah, that's
but it
crazy.
But it was a little kid who was scared because he said he saw monsters in his dreams, so he didn't want to go to sleep. They said based on a true story, but based on a true story wasn't anything what the true story was. They dropped a new movie now of Nightmare on Elm Street that's more based off the true story, but based on true events. They got to cut that out.
Yeah, I don't just make it nonfiction.
Agreed.
I guess it's just not as interesting, but
I agree.
Still.
Yeah.
But anyways, I got one that's pretty interesting, and I think that no one's talking about it, and it's gonna be like the biggest event once it happens. So, for the past 500 years, the North Pole has been flipping slowly with the South Pole, and as of recently, it's been picking up. And they said it might not sound that crazy, but when you actually do the math, it's pretty crazy. From 500 years ago, the North Pole was moving 11 miles every year, a little bit to the side, and now it's moving 33 miles to the side, and the poles are flipping right now, and they said it's speeding up at a rapid rate.
So, what would happen when the poles flip?
I didn't get to that part.
We should do some digging. So you're telling me that the North Pole is going to become the South Pole, and the South Pole is going to become the North Pole?
Yes, and the compasses are going to be backwards. So, like, you're going to look at your compass, and it's going to be, like, pointing south when it's north.
So, like, the whole Earth is just tilting on its axes.
I don't know if the Earth is, or if it's just, like, the magnetic field of the Earth. Like, I don't know how it works, to be honest, but, like...
Oh, so it's, like,
the magnetic
spinning
field.
it off of, like, a greater portion almost. I could picture it,
Yeah.
but that's crazy. So, and this has probably never happened in, like, humans' lifetime.
Actually, not in humans' lifetime. Last time it happened was 770,000 years ago.
So never with humans. So we physically do not know what's going to happen.
They say they do. Like, I saw some things like, it won't affect the weather, and they said something like that, but, like, honestly, how would they know?
Yeah,
Like,
770,000
like they're just
years
making
ago.
guesses, I think, based on the knowledge they know of the magnetic field, but they've never seen it, so they can't really know. So
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's what science does. When they don't know something, they just fill in the blanks. This is where I was talking about in my episode 1 with T-Rexes. I could go
you
on.
went off on it, bro.
I could go on about this for days. So obviously, science. Everybody knows about the infamous T-Rex with its little two teeny tiny arms. Arr, okay, but I don't buy that story because, they have never found a complete T-Rex skeleton ever. They even admitted it. They have never found a complete T-Rex skeleton. They found almost complete ones, but never a complete one. And they even admit that they just like mix bones where they think they should go. So when you hear that, it's just like, okay,
yeah.
What? How much do we not know about these? So then when like looking into it, I started doing a digging, and my episode 1 of my podcast was based on this. But basically, you look at an ostrich. I want everybody right now, go look at the skeleton of an ostrich, go look at the skeleton of a chicken, and then go look at the skeleton of a T-Rex. Exactly the same. Okay, so I don't think those arms were like this. Like I said, I think they were like this, and I think they were wing sockets. The T-Rex was a dragon. And all these new... I feel crazy every time I say it. The T-Rex was a dragon.
We have some valid points, and like we should like gather all the paleontologists in the world and like have them all go in on it. Like, maybe like instead of like making... I know they do the scientific research, but instead of making assumptions of how it is, maybe we should just like... What if? Let's just do a what if scenario with all the paleontologists and see if they can prove that it's not a dragon.
Yeah.
Like,
I think, and I could be wrong on this, but I think that a big part of the issue, if I'm just thinking about it logically in my head, is that paleontologists, since discovering dinosaur bones is such a rare thing as it is, even the top paleontologists, I don't think they consider themselves experts because there's not enough information out there to make anybody an expert.
Yeah.
So they're like, we've never found a complete dinosaur skeleton, so how can anybody be an expert? So I think that paleontologists are still in the phase of trying to figure anything out, while the people like us are putting our inputs in on what they're finding because they don't want to put their own inputs in because they're scientists. They don't put their inputs in until they're sure about something.
Yeah, they just
so
say
it's
what they
always
saw, yeah.
estimates, and now like T-Rexes are being thrown around to have had feathers and things like that. So I mean, things are always changing, and I just don't think that we have a definitive. But for the people to call me crazy for saying that the T-Rex was actually a dragon are just as crazy for thinking that the T-Rex was a T-Rex, because you can't know that just like I can't know that. Nobody can know that. Like paleontologists still can't know that. Like hundreds of years go by before they realize that they probably were feathered. I mean, we're still finding out new information all the time, and I just think that we need to get to an evidence-based scientific department where information isn't released until it's evident. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
100% agree. Oh, but I saw another thing. Tell me how you feel about this. Like, honestly, I can see both sides. People being super against it and super for it. Okay, so we do know, unfortunately, like bee population's going down. So they said until we get this
like bees, as in like bumblebees,
like bumblebees, yeah,
like
bumblebees,
stinging
like
bees. Okay,
bees that pollinate. But yeah, so they know its population's going down on them. So they created robots, bee droids. They're called. It's bee as it's just the letter bee droids, and these robots could fly around and pollinate flowers.
So they made basically AI bees.
AIBs. They can just throw them around and they would just fly around and pollinate.
That's
I can't tell how I feel about it, 'cause, like, I would rather just save the bee species, but then again, like, if the bee population is going down and we can't figure out a way to solve it, we're gonna need a way to pollinate.
And I agree,
so, like,
but it's like we need because what if we got hit with like a blackout?
Like the post flipping?
Yeah, like the pole is flipping.
flipping.
That would probably cause a blackout. What if we had a blackout and like an electrical surge that took everything out? We would just be out of bees, because they actually did that with mosquitoes too. They released genetically modified mosquitoes in Florida to limit the mosquito population and limit the West Nile virus by creating their own mosquitoes. So, but I think they were real mosquitoes. They were just genetically modified mosquitoes. But you're talking about AI bees. This is
AIVs.
That's AI bees. Abes. We need to understand that real bees are kind of important.
Yeah.
Just
and we
a little.
I don't care.
Just a little.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and we. I don't care what anyone says. Anyone in the world. I'm even saying Elon. No one can understand AI. Because AI is its own learning. It learns on its own. It gets smarter. So like, it's like partially conscious, but yeah.
I'm a believer that AI does learn and AI is conscious. Do you know that the developers of the TikTok algorithm, for those of you who are on TikTok, the developers of the TikTok algorithm said that they don't understand the algorithm.
It learned too much.
So the algorithm is updating itself as it finds flaws, which means it learns.
This is some Free Guy stuff. If anyone that's ever watched Free Guy, the movie Free Guy.
Yeah!
It's CMPs that learn and become conscious.
Yeah.
And actually start...
NPCs.
They probably can start getting emotions for all we know.
Oh, that reminds me. Oh, speaking of NPCs, there's this whole new rumor going around on TikTok.
What was it?
Basically, apparently, some people don't have narrators in their head.
Oh, I saw that. Dude, that was crazy.
Yeah, so apparently
we gotta ask the whole community right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have another voice talking to you? Like when you think about doing something, like you have like a conversation going on. Like, should I do that? Maybe I shouldn't because of this, or maybe I will because of this. Like, is that normal? Because Because supposedly there's people out there that don't have another voice. They just do. Like, that's it. They just do.
According to somebody recently, they actually have a definitive number because they interviewed tons of people and got a percentage. And it turns out that they said about 74% of people do not hear a narrator voice inside their head. 74%. Only 26% of people have a voice that they can hear inside their head. So there's only 26% of real people out there. 74% are NPCs. That's crazy. I'm sorry to you NPCs, but no, honestly, that blew my mind when this topic came up on TikTok. So you're telling me that there's actually people out there that don't have a voice in their head?
Like, how do you make decisions? Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm actually curious. Like, actually, how do you make a decision? Like, I'm talking to myself in my head, calculating the positives, the negatives, the neutrals, the everything about the situation, and then after I get all this information, I decide what I'm going to do with the decision.
Or like if you make a bad decision in your head and then the other voice in your head tells you that it's a bad decision. Like, I'm going to go do this. And then you hear this little voice like, nah, man, I really shouldn't do that. So you don't have that voice? Like, I have this little voice that tells me who I really am. It's almost as if it's like who I really am.
The higher self.
It's like I think at the surface, like, oh, I just want to do this. Oh, I'm going to do this. But then there's always this trailing voice that knows what I actually want. And it's like, nah, that's going to throw you off your game. And then I'm like, oh, man, my voice is right. I can't do it. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I have a voice inside my head.
It's like I could be wrong, and this is just a theory. So I'm going to say establish it as a theory. But it's like, whatever you set your goals as, like, you set your goals and you're like, this is what I want in my future. Now that little voice in your head is going to talk to you on everything to do to manifest that future. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like now that voice, like, if it's not towards that goal, that voice is going to come in anytime you're doing something against that goal.
Yep. And that's and when I had first heard the conversation, for those of you who understand like spirituality and like the conscious mind and deep diving down, the spiritual path, I hear a lot of people talk about the inner voice. And it's like, that's how you can prove that you have a higher consciousness, is that, you hear a voice inside your head and then you hear a voice respond to the voice. Like, you tell yourself, like, I need to do this. And then another voice says, like, but like, why? So you have like two different sides of you. That's like, one's the surface you and one's the inner you. And that's how they detect it. So I've always just assumed that everyone had that. And then when this whole conversation came up on TikTok, now it throws me back to a time of like, how do you know when your higher conscious is talking to you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe I'm crazy, but
that doesn't. I can't completely make it all make sense.
Me neither. But we are just ripping through these conversations, and I just want to jump straight into another one. Speaking of like evolution and conscious evolution, for those of you guys who know Hank Green is I'm a huge fan. He's awesome.
Him. Oh yeah.
Hank Green is a very smart guy, but I've seen Hank Green talk about a piece of art recently, and I wanted to talk about it. But in Spain, in a cave in Spain, they found a piece of art. Did you see it? I'm going to pop it up on the screen so everybody can see it. Do you have your phone?
I do not.
No worries. No worries. So I'm going to pop it up on the screen so everyone can see it. But there's a piece of art that they found on the walls, drawn in a cave in Spain. Now, they dated this painting back to about 60,000 years ago, which is really cool. Because, we always want to see what the people from way back in the day talk. But here's the thing. 60,000 years ago, there wasn't humans in Spain.
So humans were around longer than we thought?
No. Those paintings in that wall were not human-made.
Either they were not human-made or we have the timestamp wrong on humans.
I think that they were not human-made. Because 60,000 years ago in Spain, it's Neanderthals. Neanderthals. That's all I'm going to say. I think that they were Neanderthals because they couldn't have been like an ape species. You should see these art paintings. Like I said, I had popped up. But
I gotta watch back at this video because I don't know what you're talking about.
I gotta show. That's why I asked if you had your phone on.
I don't
you.
know how these look, but so
they're crazy.
Totally
they're literally pretty good drawings. They're pretty good drawings. Like, it was artsy. It was artsy. I mean, it wasn't something like that we would draw. Like, we could probably draw a lot better, but it was artsy, and it wasn't looking like it was just like a big splash of random stuff. So it was an intelligent creature that drew that 60,000 years ago. And yeah, I'm really starting to get curious because there's like the whole, you've heard of the stoned ape theory?
I'm eating.
I'm eating, yeah. Apparently, monkeys, apes ate a bunch of mushrooms, and that's what developed our consciousness, because humans cannot find the interlinking piece of where we came from apes. There's apes, and then there's humans, and they can't find the interlinking piece that was a cross between a human and an ape. It just goes straight from apes to humans. That's why the Neanderthal topic, is a Neanderthal is half ape, half human, supposedly. The lost species of the chain of evolution. But I think that we're really accelerating the process of really learning about the past. Just between like the talks that we had on the podcast today, it being like you talking about the poles and being able to understand like the movement of the stars and the earth over the last couple of thousands of years, versus like I was talking about with the T-Rexes and the dragons, the Neanderthal art, or like just what happened with the Titanic. I think that we're starting to really get to a place in the world where we're uncovering the past a lot more, and I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I am all for it.
We're seeing through it all.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. And
I agree.
I just want to see where this goes. And for those of you who don't know, the Odd Nation and what we're going to be always bringing to the table is conversations about stuff that you're not seeing in the news that is huge news. This is huge. The odd stuff, the conspiracy stuff, the theory stuff. I think I'm pretty knowledgeable with a lot of this stuff. If there's stuff that you want to, see in specific, I always up for ears and things like that. But other than that, one other topic I wanted to talk about, which is just a totally random topic, but I feel like every podcast in the world has covered it already. So,
yeah,
I mean, why not? But I was just going to touch base on the Will Smith and Chris Rock situation, but now I got information that maybe no one's heard yet. There was a lot of rumors that it might have been staged, and I think I might have the most definitive proof of that possible. So, for those of you who don't know, I just wanted to point this out there as a theory. The Grammys this year was hosted by Pfizer.
Ooh, I saw this.
Okay.
Oh, gosh.
The Grammys was hosted by Pfizer. Pfizer is in stage 3 of creating a cure to alopecia.
I know, I heard about it. It's so crazy.
Pfizer is in
mind blown.
Pfizer is in stage 3 of a cure for alopecia. Sponsoring the Grammys. The Grammys are losing hype. All of a sudden, the hype gets shot back up by Will Smith slapping Chris Rock because of a joke about alopecia. And the next day after the Grammys, alopecia was trending on Twitter.
Yeah,
could this have been staged? Also, you can actually look it up on TikTok. Somebody got it. There's a clip afterwards of Will Smith smacking Chris Rock that they were talking and hugging after the Grammys. It's a low-key clip. Somebody got it, and it's real. It's on the internet. It is on the internet. This was just a total side thing. I just wanted to.
How is it not trending?
That's what I'm saying, and I just wanted to shine light on that. That's what I'm going to do, is shine light on everything that there's no light shined on. So, yeah. Again, we are going to be doing this every Friday, and we might even be upping it up to twice a week. But right now, we're going to be dropping a new episode every Friday. Do not miss the best podcast in the world. The Odd Nation. Don't forget, everybody, you have to be odd to be number one.
Yay.
Woo, Dr. Seuss. It's my guy. All right. But other than that, we're also going to be looking for people to bring on as well. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow us on all socials. TikTok is going to be the motherland of where we're going to be pushing the short version of the content of the podcast. If you want an opportunity to come on, message on Instagram, message on TikTok, or simply just
also
leave a comment.
one other thing. If you guys have, because like we said, we're odd. We like odd things. If you have any crazy, unbelievable stories that sound so unbelievable that's hard to prove, but like you have some sort of evidence or some kind of thing to sort of prove it, try to get on our podcast. Like, we're looking for all those kind of things.
Yeah.
All those kind of things.
Because I'm a believer in the unexplained. And the unknown, I should say. Yes, the unknown fascinates us. If it fascinates you, you're in the right place. We're going to be pumping out content that you should enjoy. And other than that, like I always say, life punches hard. Life hits hard, okay? It's going to always. Nobody is ever going to smack you as hard as life or Will Smith. So
I'm sorry for laughing.
With that being said, if life does slap you pretty hard, don't get regretful, don't get revengeful, don't get resentful, okay? But instead, let me offer you another solution. If life smacks you, don't get even. Get odd. Woo woo. And other than that, we will see you on the next episode. Bye. I love you guys. Woo.